We put way too much emphasis on the power of our brains. In this society, we look at our bodies as these biological chariots carrying around our royal brains. When we worship our mind, when we worship the brain, we really miss out on something incredible. In this video, we're going to be going into detail on how to turn inward and speak to the voice of universal knowledge. I'll also be performing a mind clearing activation to make it a little bit easier for you to stop the chatter of the mind, especially when meditating and when speaking to that voice of universal knowledge. We are nowhere near as limited as we think. We picture ourselves as slaves to our thoughts, to our emotions, and to our biological response system. We come about it honestly, because really that's what it feels like to be here. It feels like we're swimming around in this giant ocean and being pulled under by the waves all the time. When in fact, we are not slaves at all. We are the masters of a giant vessel moving through a much smaller ocean than we think. Turning inward is a 4D and a 5D concept. We're very used to believing that we live and exist in a 3D world. We've been trained that we need to go to a doctor to heal us, and we need to go to teachers to teach us. And we also have to go to church to learn the message of God. But turning inward is a 4D or a 5D concept where we can actually learn and hear the message of God ourselves. But it isn't easy to receive these messages. Why? Because our survival programming kicks in. Our thoughts are constantly screaming at us. Our emotions are constantly screaming at us. Our bodies are constantly screaming at us. The world around us is giving us so much information that we can't hear the tiny little voice that's going on inside our head telling us all kinds of amazing information. Universal knowledge. Knowledge that will help you make decisions in your life, that will help guide you to the synchronistic life that you're supposed to experience, that you signed up for when you came here. I like to break it down like this. In each of us, there are three main personas. Let's start with the child. The child is the one that loves to explore, that's excited about new things that it's never seen before. It wants to stomp in the puddle, and it wants to touch the fuzzy thing. It wants to play games, and it wants to imagine and play make-believe. The child is in each of us, and it is accessible, but it's often tamped down in favor of responsibility. We'll get to that in a second. There's another persona in us that I call the master. The master is the voice of universal knowledge, and we all have it. It's the one that I was talking about a second ago that you can talk to hear the voice of God. It's the one that can guide you throughout your life. Some believe that it is your higher self, or your guides, or angels, ascended masters. It could be any voice at all. The identity of the voice is not nearly as important as being able to talk to it. The master also loves unconditionally you. It loves unconditionally the child version of you. It loves unconditionally absolutely everything. So tapping into that master is a healthy thing to do. The more that you can unconditionally love, the more that you can love yourself and the world, the happier and the more fulfilled you'll feel. But unfortunately, now we need to speak of the third persona. This is the one that I like to call the adult. The adult is the one that takes responsibility. It's the one that we've been raised to believe that is our true selves. It's the one that uses logic, that uses the rules of the three-dimensional reality to make its decisions. It tries to predict the future, and it is very focused on survival and being wise. We talk about common sense. Where does common sense come from? We believe that the adult is the master of common sense. Interestingly, the adult thinks that it needs to be the master. The adult doesn't even believe that the master exists as a separate persona. And the adult also has impatience. It has impatience for the child. It has impatience for the world around it. So we have an awful lot of trouble, actually, because we spend so much of our time as the adults. The more time that you can spend as the child and dance and play and enjoy everyday life, the better. The more time we can speak to the master and allow the master to come through us more often than we normally do, the better. So I would give you some homework. Be the child. Play, skip, dance, make jokes, play games, explore nature, watch the ants, find a bird and watch how it interacts, enjoy the snow like I'm doing today. I decided to play outside and record this video in the snow, which is not something that I would normally do. I'm including a bonus in this video, a little 5-minute conversation that I had with a former student who showed up to one of my current classes. As you probably know, I teach 2 online classes, one to help people remove negative entity attachments and stay clear for the rest of their lives, and another one to default to happy. This helps people that are suffering from emotional or physical or mental pain and anguish. So this student was a former student, and anybody who's in my classes can attend any class for the rest of their lives. So he showed up and joined us for the class where I talk more about speaking to the master, being the child, and learning and understanding how to turn inward. I really enjoyed what he had to say and what he'd learned since the last time that he had joined one of my classes. And so I thought you would get something out of it as well. And yeah, and you're coming from, tell everybody a little bit about you.
I'm a college professor, and I've gone ahead. I've lived my life in the left side of my brain. Xane, going back to the child, master, and adult.
Yeah.
The more I think about it, and the more I go on thinking about it and acting on what I learned from you, the less I see in the adult.
Oh, yeah.
At least in my adult is just a repository of so much bad conditioning. And is this just me, or is adult really not that useful in life?
It really isn't. I feel that for sure, because it prevents you from having fun. It prevents you from it can really get in the way of all of your great experiences. Think about so many people who take on jobs that they're not very happy with, and you ask them, hey, what would you rather be doing? Well, I'd rather be doing, and they just know right away, right? Like they just know for sure what this other thing was, and they don't do it because the adult says you can't. You don't have the skills. You got to make money, blah, blah, blah. Like, it is the representation of our programming for sure.
And it's purely programming. It's nothing. It's just something temporary, a 3D function of who we are as a personality.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I don't see it as much more. I mean, there's a little bit, right? There's some survival-based stuff going on in there.
Okay.
If you think about it, because you're seeking comfort, you're seeking safety, you're seeking, you're afraid. So there's a fear situation going on, but so much of it is, okay, because you're feeling this fear, because you're feeling this, seeking this comfort, because of all this, here's how you do it. And it's the societal programming that tells us, oh, okay, I'm supposed to go to college. I'm supposed to get a job. I'm supposed to do this for the rest of my life. Oh, I guess I should have a kid because that would make me happy. I guess I should have a spouse because that would make me happy. And I should live in the same place. I should buy a house. I should put all this money into buying it just goes on and on and on, right?
Yeah. It feels so powerful and dense and unrelentless, and gee whiz, for something that's insubstantial in the end.
Right. Yeah, and we value it too, right? Like, what's the 5-year plan, and how are you have you invested, and what's your 401k, and blah blah blah. All that crap is all related to that.
Aren't we taught that the adult is us, and that's what we should listen to? I don't know, in my own life, that's what I realize. That's what I absorb. That's the message I absorb. That's the one that's guiding my life.
So what are some things that you've latched on to, or that you're doing, that you're listening to the master and the child more?
Non-judgment of almost everything. It could be everything. I'm giving up trying to predict the future. For me, I was doing 5-year plans every 5 hours. And imagining fearful future situations and making plans to confront them. And then,
Right.
but when I look back in all of my years, the adult has always been wrong from my earliest memory of fear, always. But it still talks as if it knows everything.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I always say that how good are we at predicting the future? We're terrible at it. If we were any good at all, we'd all be Bitcoin billionaires.
That's right.
Right.
I wish I had learned that a long, long time ago. I would have saved myself a lot of problems and anguish. And then, it feels as if it's leading our lives. It's conducting our lives, but it doesn't know anything, and it's getting in the way.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Getting in the way of pure joy, getting in the way of possibility.
Possibility, and of allowing the master and allowing
The child.
the child and the spirit guides, the entities, the good entities, God, the source, origin, to take over and to lead our lives for the better.
Right. Well, thank you so much for being here and for sharing with us,
Thank
Franco.
you for the invitation.
Yeah. Always.
So here are the steps to speak to the voice of universal knowledge. The first thing that you want to do is get into a very comfortable position, and you really want to focus on relaxing. This can take as long as you need to relax as much as possible, to go into a peaceful state. Today's activation will help you with this to some degree, but you still need to be able to do it yourself. And this relaxation comes from just taking nice big deep breaths, having your eyes closed, and allowing your mind to wander for a little bit. Get the most important thoughts through you and out of you. A lot of times when I sit down to do this, the most important thoughts bubble to the surface, and I quickly just take some notes so I don't have to think about what that thing is so much. Oh, right, I almost forgot to do this today. I'm glad I sat down and thought about this for a second. Okay, now I'm going to write it down, and now I can let it go. So then once you kind of get into that comfortable position, you don't necessarily have to go into meditation, because meditation is a fairly complex or fairly difficult task for most people. You don't have to be an expert meditator in order to speak to the voice of universal knowledge. So instead, once you've gotten into this comfortable position, you're breathing evenly, and you are fully relaxed, then you can go ahead and ask a question.
This question can really be anything you want to know about yourself or about the world. The one thing I would say to stay away from is to ask questions about the future, because there are just too many timelines and too many possibilities and too many ways for you to jump into a new timeline that would make the prediction invalid. Another really good trick to this is to refer to yourself in the third person. Instead of asking, why do I get so upset when XYZ happens? Instead say, why does Xane get so upset when XYZ happens? This puts you in a state of observing yourself rather than being surrounded by your experience. This helps you communicate more directly with the master, and the answers to your questions will be that much better. Once you've silently asked that question, all you really need to do is wait for the answer. The trick here is to go into a listening state. And if you are waiting and you are listening and you are not allowing your brain or your mind to answer the question, then you're doing it right. And if you don't hear anything, all you have to do is wait and ask the question again. Sometimes you might even want to ask a different question to give yourself a chance to clear your mind and move on to the next thing. But eventually you'll get to learn what the difference is between your mind and the master.
Okay, let's go ahead now and perform a mind-clearing activation. When you're ready, go ahead and close your eyes and take a nice big deep breath and relax as you exhale. Feel yourself sinking into the chair that you're sitting in. What I want you to do right now is to picture your brain. See it floating in the space in front of you. I'm picturing it rotating. So you're looking at all aspects of your brain right in front of you. And you can see it, little electricity, little lightning strikes throughout that are lighting up different portions of the brain. And so what I want you to do is I want you to picture the storm passing. So you're seeing the little lightning strikes and you're seeing the little flashes of light start to slow down and slow down more and slow down more. The way my activations work is I'm going to say breath in. And when I do, you'll take a nice big deep breath. You'll hold it at the top and you'll wait for me to say awaken, at which point you can exhale. Be warned, the word awaken is a little bit loud and explosive. So keep watching, keep seeing the little lightning flashes, slowing down until they're just little rumbles. Breath in. Awaken. Excellent. That's really all there is to it. Moving forward, if you want to slow your brain down, picture that imagery that I just described. And anytime you need, you can listen to this activation again to help when you practice meditation and when you practice speaking to the master. When you're ready, with a relaxed mind and enthusiasm over speaking to the master, then you can open your eyes. Thank you so much for participating in that activation and watching this video. If you'd like another activation that will help you with nervousness, then I highly recommend that you download it off my website. What's really cool about this particular activation is that it will remove the negative signature associated with nervousness, the cloudy mind or the fluttering chest or the fluttering stomach that gets in the way of you being able to be at your best, to be your true self. So just watching that 5 to 20 minutes before you're about to engage in the nerve-wracking activity will completely remove that feeling, and you'll be able to sail right through the experience. Thank you so much for watching and participating in this video. I would love it if you subscribed, if you commented below about your experience, if you clicked the bell icon, you liked all the fun YouTube things to help promote the channel so that other people like you will find it and benefit greatly. That's my hope, that's my passion, that's my mission. I love you unconditionally, and I'll see you in the next video.